All right, y'all. So I thought about housing all of these new spiderlings off camera without doing a video, and then I thought, what the hell? Why not make a video? I figured you might want to see all of these spiderlings. So we've got a lot of work to do. Go get a snack and a drink. It's gonna take a while. I'm gonna reset my camera. Let's meet back here and let's get to work. All right, so this should be interesting. I figured I would start with the terrestrial and fossorial species first. Go with the arboreals last, save the best for last. So what we have here, we're starting out with, is the Phormictopus auratus, the Cuban bronze. I have 3 of these. So the next 3 spiders that we will see will be this species here. And I've got like 30 tarantulas to move. So this promises to be maybe kind of interesting. I'm not sure. But just like with the P. metallica earlier, I have a catch cup ready. I think this one's going to come out on its own for us. Seems like it's showing a little bit of an attitude. It's doing some kind of a strange dance there. Definitely in pre-molt. Oh, it's webbing's what it's doing. This one is definitely in pre-molt, so I do expect a molt out of it very soon. There is the first tarantula down. Let's get a top on before it decides to go for a walkabout. And then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so I thought I would switch up my technique on this next one. Maybe this will help us. Maybe it won't. I don't know. And if this doesn't work out, I may... Okay, there's that one out. And wanting to try to go for a run. Fortunately, it's a very tiny spiderling. I'm not too worried about it. Get back in there. There is Phormictopus auratus number 2. Phormictopus auratus number 3. What I was going to say earlier before that one decided to try to take a walkabout is I may try another technique, because I've got a lot of spiders to get out of these little vials. Another technique that you can use is that you can take and cut the tip off of the vial and then use toothpick or a bamboo skewer or something and push this tissue and all forward, and then it'll push them out. There we go. All 3 Phormictopus auratus in their new home. That one looks like it's in a pre-molt as well. Let's move along. All right, so I decided to change techniques. Next up, this is the Ephiboppus murinus, or the skeleton leg tarantula. I have 2 of those, so the next 2 tarantulas that we see will be the skeleton leg. This is an absolutely beautiful fossorial tarantula species. I had a female, and I sold her a while back, so she is in a new home. And we've already got one that went on a run. Fortunately, I stopped it before it got too far. So, hold on. All right, I got it back in its enclosure, and I have now learned that Ephiboppus murinus spiderlings are pretty fast. All right, y'all. Ephiboppus murinus number 2. Hopefully this one doesn't make as much of a run for it. If it does, I'll be ready. Put the lid on there before it gets away, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, so the next 2 are going to be Ephiboppus cyanonatus, the blue fang tarantula. It's the cousin to the skeleton leg that we just rehoused. I didn't realize that the battery was so low on my phone, so I'm unable to use the flash on my phone, so I'm using an outside light source while my phone is charging while I'm still doing the video. So my hand may get in the way and block the light every once in a while. This one is a little bit sluggish, but seems to be all right. This species right here are absolutely gorgeous as spiderlings. All right, there we go. There's the first blue fang down. All right, so here is Ephiboppus cyanonatus number 2. I'm going to try to do this while blocking as little light as I can. This one's a little bit bigger. Seems to be a little more active. And we got a runner, y'all. Absolutely stunning spiderling, though. Okay. I'm going to try something here. Wish me luck. There we go. We have a thunderstorm creeping in. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Thunder in the background. And this guy just does not want to go. Give me a second, please. All right, safe and sound inside. That has been the Ephibopas cyanognathus, the blue-fanged tarantula. Let's move along. All right, so up next we have two Thrixopelma pruriens. This is the Peruvian green velvet, and I lied to y'all when I was unboxing these, saying that I thought they were like on the dwarf side. Rick corrected me and informed me that these guys do in fact get big, so we'll see. They're actually pretty tiny right now. So there's the first one in without incident. All right, so here's Thrixopelma pruriens number 2. And I have decided to stick with the cutting the end of the vial off and then shove it out method. There it is, right down there in the corner. Absolutely tiny little guy. All right, that's all of the Thrixopelma pruriens. Let's move on to the next species. Okay, so up next we have two Dolichothele diamantinensis, or the Brazilian blue dwarf beauty. I had one of these up until a couple of years ago, and she was one of those, unfortunately, that had a bad molt and died, which really sucked. Another absolutely stunning species. We've got one more of these to go. All right, here we go with Dolichothele diamantinensis number 2. That last one there at the end tried to make a little bit of a bolt as I was going to snap the lid on, so I had to be careful not to get its legs. But there is Brazilian blue dwarf beauty number 2. Now let's move on to my favorite terrestrial species. All right, y'all, so this is probably my absolute favorite tarantula species. Of all of them, definitely probably my favorite old world. When I started keeping tarantulas 7 or 8 years ago, I was always afraid to do old worlds because I heard how pissy they were and fast and extremely venomous. And then I saw this beautiful little species right here on Tom's Big Spiders and just knew I had to have one. So, second tarantula I ever got was an old world, and it was my first old world, and it was the Harpactira pulchripes, the golden blue leg baboon. As luck would have it, she grew up female. I named her Phoebe. Many of you will remember her. Unfortunately, she got impaction a couple of years ago. I had never dealt with it, so I didn't know the signs until it was too late, and I had to euthanize her. It crushed me. I almost got out of the hobby because of it, but then this care package kind of started behind all of that. So there we go. There's the first H. pulchripes. Let's move along. Okay, so here's H. pulchripes number 2. It decided it wanted to come out on its own, and they're immediately doing that webbing. These guys are prolific webbers. Trying not to spook it. They are prolific webbers. Not so much as the GBB or maybe the Indian violet, but very close. And in my experience, they've always been pretty chill. Phoebe was a bit pissy at this size until she got about 2 inches. When she was younger, I could just walk by her enclosure and she was throwing up a threat posture and slap striking just by me walking by the enclosure. She hit 2 inches and she chilled completely out. There's H. pulchripes number 2. Let's move on to the next one. All right, we have Harpactira pulchripes number 3. Right on out. That one looks a little plump and its rump's a little shiny. By the way, the last one that I housed, there was a molt in there, so it molted in transit. And Rick told me that they had been eating good, so I expect molts out of all of these guys here pretty soon. There we go. There's H. pulchripes number 3. We got one more to go. All right, so this is the last H. pulchripes, and this is the last of our terrestrial slash fossorial species. And this one, just like that second one, wanted to come out on its own. So we're going to let it do just that. You never want to force your animals to do anything that they don't want to do. Like this one right here doesn't want to come out of the vial. I'm almost afraid to poke it because it might provoke a bolt. Or not. There we go. Get that out of there. There we go. That is all of the terrestrial and fossorial species. Now on to the fun stuff. Alright, y'all, so we got all the boring stuff out of the way. We've got 15 terrestrial or fossorial tarantulas rehoused. Now we're on to 15 arboreal tarantulas. We're going to start with some new worlds. We're going to start with this one right here. This is the Spinacylus, however you want to say it, Rufus, the peach earth tiger. It was formerly the Firmingocylus species, Rufus, but that has recently been renamed. So I decided I'm going to do a different technique with the arboreals, and I learned this from my absolute best friend and mentor in the hobby. He's not uploading anymore, but Norvis Eight-Legged Critters. I learned so much from that guy, and I mean, that dude means the world to me. He does, this is a bit of a spin on the Tom Moran poke and pray thing, and truth be told, I could leave these vials just in the substrate, let the spiders come out on their own, and then make a home out of it. But that wouldn't be any fun because then you wouldn't be able to see the spiders. This spider is pretty plain and not very spectacular right now, but when they get bigger, they're absolutely stunning. Let's move on to the second one. All right, so here is the second species, Rufus. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Ooh, we got a little bit of a threat posture there. So there we go. 2 peach earth tigers. This one's going to try to make an escape. And we're off. Trying to get this on camera, because there we go. Back in the vial, back out of the vial. This one's been boxed up for a while. It just wants to be on the move. So I'm just going to let it run out some of its energy. Please be patient with me, y'all, and we will get back to you shortly. Sorry about that, y'all. That took a little bit of finagling and some experience to safely get the spider into the vial without harming it. Those are my 2 peach earth tigers. Let's move on to the next ones. All right, so this next species really needs no introduction, although I will give you one. This tarantula right here is very recognizable and it's very popular in the hobby. They are absolutely stunning as spiderlings. This is the Carabina versicolor. And I bought a spiderling years ago, turned into a female, and then I decided, oh, here this one decides to come out. Everybody knows this little spiderling right here. Almost had another escapee. By those bright blue colors when they're little babies, they're even more stunning as adults. This one right here actually decided to try to come out on its own. So, fortunately, I caught that off camera and put a stop to that. And then here's the third one. We have 3 Carabina versicolors. See if we can get this one out. I was mentioning my friend and mentor, Norvis Eight-Legged Critters. He does not upload anymore, but the dude's a freaking legend in the hobby. So, you know, here we go with another one that's going on a walkabout. I'll be right back. That didn't take long. Thank goodness for experience. Anyways, the guy's a legend in the hobby. Like I said, he doesn't upload anymore. Life happened, but he still keeps. And I owe that dude everything as far as like learning in the hobby. So there we go. There's all three of my Caribbean Versicolor. Let's move on to the next ones. So this next New World arboreal tarantula has been on my wish list for the past couple of years. This is the Salmopoeus victori, or victori, the Darth Maul tarantula, or the Mexican half and half, I believe it's called. But, you know, us in the hobby, we don't really go by common names. I don't think I've ever seen any spiderlings. I've just seen adults, so I am very curious to see what this little rascal looks like, and hopefully it's not one of those flighty ones. I know most of these spiders, spoke too soon, that's why we have catch cups. Most of these spiders have been boxed up for a few hours, so they're ready to get out and stretch their legs. We'll be right back with the Darth Maul. Well, I learned something about the Salmopoeus victori. These little bastards are flighty as hell. That was quite an ordeal, and I actually wish I could have got how I got it into this thing on camera, because I had to use some experience and know-how, and I actually had to use a transfer container to get it into this thing. I really wish I could give you a look at these guys, but I don't want to run the risk of this thing running off again, so maybe the next one will go a little bit better. All right, fingers crossed. We're not going to have the same thing here. One thing to note, and I haven't kept a whole lot of these, but Salmopoeus, which is a New World arboreal species of tarantula, for people that have kept them, they know that they are absolutely freaking psycho. This is the cousin to the Venezuelan sun tiger and a couple of others, and you can see it right down there on the bottom of the vial. I'm going to have to pause again, get this guy under control, get it back in the enclosure. Really wish I could show one of these to you. Okay, while I've got it in the catch cup, I'm going to try to give you guys a little bit of a look at this little spiderling. But as I was saying, the Salmopoeus are known to be a little bit crazy. They're like some of the crazier New Worlds. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing into the vial. And you know what? I think we're on to the Old Worlds. I'll have to check. Hold on. Okay, so I managed to get that one to go back down in its vial, and you can see its cute little rump right there. That was the very psychotic and flighty Salmopoeus victori. I lied about the New World arboreals. We have one more, and this is a cousin to those last two little psychos. This is the Salmopoeus reduncus, or the Costa Rican orangemouth. I have never kept these. You can see it down there in the vial. And I'm going to try to be a little quicker, on the top this time, just in case it does decide to bolt. And I mentioned that Salmopoeus are a bit crazy. They are notorious for being what are called teleporters, meaning they can go from one spot to the other before you can blink an eye. They're super fast. We're not going to take many more chances on this one, except just to give you a little bit of a look at it. Now we're going to move on to the Old Worlds. Now we're getting to the good shit. All right, up first on our Old World arboreals, this is the Ornithoctonus areotibialis, the Thai golden fringe. I have known keepers that have had these, but I've never kept them. And so it'll be interesting to see what these guys... I have seen adults, and they are stunning. It'll be interesting to see what this spiderling looks like. Hopefully it won't be very flighty. But if it is, I'll try to be quick on the lid. But yeah, good luck with that, right? So far, these arboreals, they've been fast. They are... Like I said, most of them are known as teleporters. This one's being a bit stubborn. Here we go. It is out. That is the Thai golden fringe baby. We've got one more of these. Let's go. I mentioned this technique right here that I'm using that I learned from Norvis, and now that I think about it, I learned this from an unboxing video he did with this species right here. This was the Ornithoctonus areotibialis. I know that's a mouthful. The Thai golden fringe. That's the first two old worlds down. Let's keep moving. All right, so these next 5 tarantulas are from a particular genus, 2 different species. I'm not letting my guard down, but I'm a little less tense dealing with these guys, although they do get a bad rap because I've never had many bad problems out of them. Famous last words. We're starting out with this one. This is the Poecilotheria regalis, or the Indian ornamental. This is a Poecilotheria that I have never kept, along with the other species that we're going to be housing after this one. Again, I'm going to try to be fast with the lid. Now, I could take all of these spiderlings, just leave this vial in their enclosure, leave the vial open and let them come out on their own, but what fun would that be? Because then we wouldn't get to see them. As you can see, my experience with Poecilotheria is they're very stubborn, and they want to do the opposite of what you want them to do. So when you want them to try to come out, they want to try to go back in and hide. That's why they get such a bad rap. Absolutely beautiful tarantula. These get really big. P. regalis number 1. Let's move along. As I mentioned, they're nice and stubborn. They just want to try to stay down in there, but out it goes. And just like the Metallica earlier, it couldn't get onto the table because the vial, there was no contact with the table. Sorry about that, guys. I realized I forgot to pause it and switching around there, and off camera, always for the safety of the animals, I had to get this tarantula into its enclosure. Like I said earlier, famous last words. I've never had many troubles with pokies, but it's probably the first one I've ever had that really went on a walkabout. All right, we've got 3 more, and we're going to finish this video up. All right, guys, so this next species is one of those from my Poecilotheria wish list. Poecilotheria vittata, the ghost ornamental. Absolutely gorgeous species. Unlike all those other spiderlings, these 3 are a bit bigger spiderlings. So I'm going to revert back to the technique that I used on the terrestrial and fossorial tarantulas, and I'm just going to poke it out. I've cut the end off. I'm just going to poke it out. And pray we don't have any runners. Like Tom Moran says, poke and pray. Never kept these guys, but they have been on my radar for the past couple of years. That was pretty fast, but you can see it went right down to the bottom of the enclosure, and it's already wanting to just try to hide rather than run out and be psycho and want to bite you or anything. So there we go. There is the first one. I got 2 more, and we will be done. So I don't know how good a view we're going to get of these guys because of these enclosures right here. But once I get them in there, if I can get a clear shot through the side, I will show you. I'll try to show you this one really quick, kind of through the vial and stuff. You can see it's a pretty good sized tarantula. But first and foremost always is the safety of the animal. After that is the shot. So that one is in its home nice and safe, and I think it ran around on the back side of this cork bark. Yep, there it is right there. goes immediately into a hiding spot. That's all they want to do is run and hide. But there is a pretty good view of the Poecilotheria vittata. We've got one more to go, and that's it. All right, here we go. Here is the last Poecilotheria vittata. We're going to get in its enclosure, and while we're doing that, I'm going to say that this is the single largest haul that I have ever done at one time since I've been in the hobby, and I've been in the hobby for about 8 years now. I would have to get a final count, but this may be the largest number of tarantulas I have owned at one time. That one ran and hid. So it may be a record both ways. This is the biggest haul I've ever done, and it may be the most tarantulas I've ever owned at one time. Now, I know some of you are watching these videos going, well, most of those tarantulas didn't have a water dish or a hide. Well, truth be told, when you're rehousing 40 tarantulas, it's kind of hard to come up with that many. Plus, most of these are so small, it'd be really hard to find small containers to use to hold water. Plus, I don't like using water dishes for spiderlings. And, I mean, truth be told, they don't really need water dishes. You can mist their enclosures and they'll get their moisture just as well. What you couldn't see on camera was all of those terrestrial enclosures. I took the vial before I rehoused them and pushed it down into the dirt and gave them kind of a starter burrow. So all of them have got a place to hide now. And they'll all be nice and safe and sound. And as I go along and find little pieces, leaf or something for them to hide under, I might put it in. But I think they'll all be okay. Guys, what an epic day for me. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. I'm going to have to end this now because it's been a very long day for me. If I've forgotten anything, I'll do it in an update video later because I am beat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, Rick, thank you so much for this kick-ass ultimate mystery box. Raul, thank you for the male Celadonia and the Metallica. We're going to take the best care we can of both of them and be looking for some spiderlings soon. The rest of you guys, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, on my shorts with my net casting spider, I was doing that species spotlight. I totally forgot about it. I'm going to get around to that, so don't give up on me. It's just been crazy, and I haven't uploaded a whole lot, so I got to kind of get back into rhythm. That's it, guys. That's all I have. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless.